Windows 10 operating system licensing. If you can think of one of the most complex, perhaps, sets of licensing rules applying to a certain product, Windows 10 is a prime example of, dear Microsoft, why did you make it that complicated? If you are not a licensing professional, I'll try and make it as simple as possible. Windows 10 can be purchased in various ways. Normally, the majority of the organizations buy it either through enterprise agreement or through MPSA agreement or through now CSP agreement. You can buy Windows 10 in two ways and license it in two ways. One way is you can license it per user. The other way to license Windows 10 is per device. And historically, it has always been per device. The per user option is fairly recent. If you buy Windows 10 per user, you must assign it to users. If you buy it per device, you must assign it to devices. You can mix and match if you want. You cannot assign a Windows 10 user license to a device and vice versa. So if you bought device licenses, assign them to devices. Let's look at the rules. Windows 10, per user license assignment eligibility. The licensed user must be the primary user of at least one device licensed with a qualifying operating system. So this is the first thing, that if you're on procurement, you must understand that. This rule is as old as Windows itself. Licenses that you buy through volume agreements, they are upgrade licenses. So something must be pre-installed on a computer, a qualifying operating system, or there's an interesting play of words here. The device must be licensed with a qualifying operating system. Qualifying operating systems is something that probably requires proper training and digging very deeply into very complex, very convoluted rules. This is from Microsoft Product Terms website. And if I scroll up to qualifying operating systems for Windows 10, depending on how you buy it, depending on how you license it, depending on if you are academic or non-academic, there are various rules that apply here. But the main thing that you need to understand is that if you are in procurement and you buy hardware to run Windows, do not buy empty computers. If you bought Windows 10 per user, you must assign it to users. So Alex must have a device, and that must be my primary device that I use for work, and I must be the primary user of that device, the laptop I have on my desk. So I'm eligible in that case. I have a Windows device with a qualifying operating system. When it becomes pretty difficult is when it comes to per device license. The traditional Windows 10 per device license, Windows 7 was licensed per device, Windows 8 was licensed per device. Here again, there's a requirement for the licensed devices to be licensed with a qualifying operating system, but also it must be installed. But then where the fun begins is here. Per device license assignment is permanent unless customer has software assurance for that device. Wonderful. If you say have 1,000 licenses and you have a rolling number of computers between 900 and 1,000 that you buy, they break, you sell them, you give them away as gifts, give them to charity, normal turnaround of hardware. So as long as these licenses are covered with software assurance, these computers, you can buy them, sell them, upgrade them, change them. Licenses are there in the pool. If the device breaks, you can reassign it immediately. There are some certain reassignment rules. You may reassign them. But then if I go back to this page, if there's no software assurance, license assignment is permanent. What it means is you bought 1,000 licenses without software assurance, and you have 1,000 devices, and then you start getting rid of all devices. You need to buy new licenses because license for Windows 10 is permanently assigned to a device. If you want to be absolutely 100% squeaky clean compliant, you need to buy a new license every time you buy a new computer. If you're buying Windows 10 without software assurance. So to have the pool of licenses that you may reassign, you always have to have Windows 10 licenses with software assurance. It's very important. Imagine you're in procurement and you really don't know all these licensing rules. What you need to understand here is unless you have an enterprise agreement or you buy licenses with, say, Windows operating system licenses with maintenance, as long as that maintenance is active, you may easily reassign them. There's no additional purchase, there's no additional cost every time you buy a computer. But if your organization decides we want to go without software assurance, then you must remember to be absolutely compliant and squeaky clean, every time you buy a new laptop or a desktop, any device that you intend to license with Windows, you need to buy a new Windows 10 license without software assurance. Another thing about software assurance you need to be aware of, if you bought licenses with software assurance, Windows 10 licenses, if you bought them in an enterprise agreement, and then you decided, you know what, let's cancel our enterprise agreement, or let's reshuffle the qualifying products, and let's get rid of software assurance on Windows operating system. I think this change is an equivalent of a nuclear bomb. Windows Enterprise semi-annual channel must be uninstalled on any licensed device if software assurance coverage lapses. You only are eligible to install a Windows LTSC long-term servicing channel, which actually has lots of limitations and not recommended to be used on Microsoft Surface at all. What it means is you have a park of computers, and if you're a large organization, I work sometimes with organizations where there are 25k seats, 50,000 seats. I have seen once when a customer decided to stop paying software assurance on Windows operating systems, they had to re-roll all devices. Because when you have an enterprise agreement, when you have those licenses with SA, what you do is you deploy that semi-annual channel, the one that gets all the security updates, feature updates, etc., etc., etc. Very few organizations deploy LTSC. And then if you decide to cancel software assurance, you have to take all your 50,000 devices and get rid of the semi-annual channel and deploy LTSC. How crazy is that? So here's another practical advice to procurement people. If you sign this marriage agreement of software assurance with Microsoft, getting out of it can be as painful as a real divorce. Pay attention to what you do when you cancel software assurance, especially on Windows Client Operating System licenses. If you like what you've just seen, please send me a connection request on LinkedIn. The link is in the description. And please subscribe to this channel so you do not miss any of the future updates and any of the future live shows that I upload here, at least weekly. Thank you, and safe with knowledge of Microsoft licensing.